You're listening to Following On with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison for the usual weekly mix of news and views. Well, after all the pre-season optimism, England have it all to do in the Ashes after an eight-wicket defeat inside 2 days in the first test in Perth. You all know that by now. We'll hear from England captain Ben Stokes and discuss how on earth they can pick themselves up after one of their worst defeats in the Bazball era, in any era. Code Sports cricket writer Robert Crash Craddock gives us the latest from the Australian camp as Pat Cummins nears a return to action and Usman Khawaja could well have played his last test for Australia. And we'll round up some of the other big stories this week, and of course we'll bring you the final word. So plenty to come over the next hour. This is Following On. Oh, shame, Harmy. You said it all over the last 2 or 3 days on following on after those 2 days in Perth. I don't know what else you've got left to say. I'm not over it. I
No.
have this kind of nausea that I mean the Ashes. It's a world event. Sorry to say that, but for cricket-loving people, it's a world event. I know that those who aren't English or Australian like to take the Mickey out of the Ashes and how big it is, but they all watch it. We all tune in, and it's I still just they got this nausea in the pit of my stomach. I'm not over it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I think if the players wanted to sort of they know it's a big event. If they didn't realize how big of an event it is, I think they know now. I think they know now. Look, everybody had their say, didn't they? This is why it's been the most eagerly awaited Ashes for some time from an English point of view because of a wide range of things. The last away Ashes was in COVID. The last Ashes in England had a bit of spice to it with the pesto stuff, and England 2-0 down to 2-2. Um, Everybody's having this all the between 2023 Ashes and in this Ashes. There's been, I reckon, what 50 new podcasts turned up by former players, by YouTubers, by influencers, by morons, by whoever, all have their say. And I know the players have got, you know, they try and keep themselves away from it, but it will. And this is how big the Ashes has become for the first game in Brisbane. And it started brilliantly. Everything went, I mean, unbelievably well. But the one thing we all said, and the one thing that annoys me a little bit, and I'll go back to what Ben said, because I've actually seen the footage of it when Ben had a glint in his eye talking about has-beens. And this is where it's going to come back to haunt him a little bit. He's saying about has-beens, having a go at their preparation. Basically, we reinvented the wheel, so we know exactly what we're doing. The game's changed. The game's changed. Modern cricket is this. There's less downtime and all that. The one thing these has-beens were saying was the bounce of the ball in Perth will catch you out if you are not prepared for it. What happened? I mean, we all said the same thing. We were all consistent in saying, I mean, I didn't have a go at their preparation as such of not playing games and stuff like that. I've seen it. Me and you have been too many places watching this team train. In New Zealand, in India, we've seen it firsthand days before. We know how hard Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum's team train. We have no problem with how hard they work from a preparation point of view. But the one thing we all said that's played the game and played in the Ashes and been to that part of the world is the bounce of the ball in Perth will get you if you're not prepared for it. And what happened? We're trying to drive the ball on from the 5 meter mark through extra cut, through straight, straight mid on, straight mid off, through extra cover, and that for me is what gives me a little bit of encouragement that England aren't out of this series because they were making the same mistake they've made quite a few times. They all made the same mistake in this one innings, but they had put themselves in a really good position. They bowled fantastically well. But now they've not only have they got to sort of come back from where they've never been before, I think mentally, pressure wise, there should be some soul searching because of some of the things that they've done, some of the things that they've said, and now they've got to go and put it right. They're very good at moving forward. they're very good at the next game and not looking back to the last game. It's very, very difficult not to look back at the last game of what just happened in the almighty, the sort of the mighty sort of stage of what the Ashes has become. Especially when last time it was COVID, there was no supporters there. This time there's double supporters there because of what happened last time. So they've put themselves under a bit of pressure, but I still think I don't see them winning the series now, but I don't see them getting beat 5-0. I think they might, again, I said at the top, it'll be 3-2 either way. For me, it was 3-2 to England. Now it's probably going to be 3-2 to Australia. I can see England winning games in Australia because, the skill sets that they've got and vulnerabilities that Australia have got and the scars that the pressure that England put Australia on. But boy, if they don't get over this one quickly and get a little bit of luck at the toss or at the start of Brisbane, then it could be a long few weeks.
Not just cricket, Harmy. Roger Federer didn't prepare for Wimbledon by playing on clay.
Absolutely.
It's right, it's Lilac Hill. I mean, Anyway, let's hear from Ben Stokes, who claims to be confident that England can bounce back in the day-night test at the Gabba.
We've been in situations where we have been behind series before, and it's our attitude that I think stands out, that allows us to move on to the next game through good and through bad. We're a very good team at, I think, dealing with emotions when we need to think about what we've got coming up next. I'm a pretty level-headed person in terms of success and failure. So yeah, I'll wake up in the morning, still be incredibly disappointed, but all of my focus and all of my energy will be going into getting the group back up, and moving our thoughts and what we need to do onto Brisbane.
Well, he's going to need a lot of energy, and he's going to need to be very, very focused. They decided not to send any of the batsmen to play in the day-night game at Canberra against Prime Minister's 11, is it? Yeah. But some of the reserves are playing. Jacob Bethel, Matt Potts and Josh Tongue. Michael Vaughan said it would be amateurish if they didn't send Joe Root, Zach Crawley. Jamie Smith's never played a day-night game in his life. But they're sticking to their guns. They've apparently ordered extra net sessions at the Gabba. But it's a long time between test matches. It's a long time to ruminate on what happened.
It is. And it's hard because I sit here on one hand think, Michael saying it's amateurish. I would say, I would argue that it would be hypocritical for people to have a go at England's preparation at Lilac Hill to then go to the Optus and then them turn around and say, well, go and have a 2-day practice game at against the Prime Minister's 11 at Canberra, and then go and play in the Gabba. Because I mean, there's a couple of things in that one. I mean, first of all, it's like going from John O'Groats to Land's End in this country, from Canberra to Brisbane. It's going to be 20 degrees in Canberra over the next 2-3 days when they're playing. It's going to be 35 in Brisbane. The ball's going to bounce shin high in Canberra. It's going to bounce not quite as extravagant as what it is in the Gabba. So anybody that had a go at the preparation going, right, we shouldn't have played at Lilac Hill like I did, to then say you go to the Optus, I'd be hypocritical if I'd say you've got to go and play at Canberra to go, have it. They'd be better off going to the Wacker and asking them to put the lights on and practicing for 3 days at the Wacker rather than go to Canberra. That would be much more sense. And I know it sounds middle practicing, you're practicing against your mates again. But England got caught out by the bounce of the ball. So don't go to Canberra. And as much as, yes, it's under lights, it's pink ball and moving and everything like that, they'll get that in practice. What they got found out for me was the bounce of the ball. And if you're going to go and do exactly the same thing, well, saying that, this team are very, very good at making the same mistakes. So it wouldn't surprise me if they go to Canberra and then go to Gabba. But Ben's talking about mentality. They have got a good mentality when it comes to moving on. They have got a good mentality when it comes to putting disappointment behind, because they played such a high risk game and they sail so close to the wind. that they do sometimes kamikaze style go the other way, and it makes it when they get beat with sometimes with embarrassment. And when they win, they're like they did in the first day, they were unbelievably brilliant. That is something they're very, very good at, moving on to the next thing. But McCullum, what does he say? His big thing, his big quote, and his big mantra: run towards the danger. He keeps telling everybody to run towards the danger. Well, on day two, I mean, running towards that danger. It reminded me of scene. Remember the scene of Blackadder at the end when Baldrick and Blackadder are going over the top? I mean, they're going into no man's land waiting for the sort of bullets to fly, and Baldrick's got a catapult. It looked like England were running into the danger with a catapult in a machine gun fight. It really did, because some of them shots that they were playing were not embarrassing. They just weren't thought out. They weren't thought out. I watched a podcast with Mike Hussey about 2 days before the Test match, and everything Huss said England have got to watch for materialized on day two. Nearly everything to a word he said, and that's people coming from Perth. We all warned this bounce of the ball. So going from Canberra to the Gabba, I think you'd be in the same boat.
Yeah, just leave it. If it's wide, just leave it. It's not that hard. Just swallow your pride and leave it if it's wide. Now, okay, let's get the Australian point of view from a man who is known for speaking bullets.
I've always felt that Bazball is a myth, and I've actually felt that in moments when it's really mattered for England, that it's actually caused them problems, that they somehow think that they have to play to the ideology instead of the match situation. The match situation is you bat it out. If they bat out the rest of the day, they've won that Test match. They'll be set up with 3 days to play.
Yeah.
But they go chase it. And in Perth in particular, the one thing, the cardinal sin is to play away from your body driving on the up. If it's under your eyes, if it's straight in front, if you're heading down the ground, no problem. But don't drive away from your eyes. And they're in the space of goodness knows, what was it, an over or two, that you've got Pope, who batted as well as I've seen him in the first innings, but kept playing those extravagant drives and missing them in the second innings. Mm-hmm. You've got your vice captain, who's as good a player, as talented a player as I've ever seen, playing an incredibly bad shot 4 balls into his innings. And then you've got Joe Root, who's got 39 Test centuries, but none in Australia.
Amazing.
Also going at a wide one and dragging it back onto his stumps. Yeah. 3 terrible shots that changed the game. It's a mindset thing. It's like they get into this Bazball ideology and they feel like they have to keep playing that way when they don't. They should play the situation. Yeah. The situation was let them go, make them bold here, hit straight, working through the leg side. Don't play extravagant shots.
Veteran Australian cricket writer Malcolm Conn. Truth hurts, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I tend not to agree with what much of Malcolm's saying, but when he said it like that, I mean, it's hard to disagree. And I mean, he can always say it's easier after the event, and a lot of us can learn. You can say it is, but Malcolm Conn and 1 or 2 others, and the mainstream media or former pundits, actually seen this coming, unfortunately, and it came in such a catastrophic way that England are going to have to pick themselves up going into the Gabba next week.
Final word in this section goes to Simon Wilde, who wrote in the Times, "Congratulations, England. You turned a team that despised Bazball and were struggling to lay a bat on ball 24 hours earlier into the greatest practitioners of Bazball in the world." Earlier today, I caught up with Code Sport's Robert Craddock to get his thoughts on where England go to from here. And also Travis Head's prospects of opening. Also the latest on the fitness of both Pat Cummins and Josh Hazlewood.
Well, I tell you, one emotion I'm finding amongst English supporters is anger and frustration. And it's very vivid over here, man. It's like, it's one thing to be trounced in a Test match, but the ones that really hurt are the ones you bomb. And it won for 105 in their second innings. This was England's game. They needed probably 250 ahead to win it. That might sound funny, even they got to 205, but it was a game blown, and it just proved again that you cannot win a test match by playing in fourth gear all the way. You've got to grind, you've got to put your shoulder to the wheel occasionally, and you've got to be ruthless. And that ruthlessness was absent.
The last time there was a 2-day test in Australia, it was devastating. It was at the Gabba. It was South Africa. They were rolled over inside 2 days. It must be financially devastating as well as emotionally.
Absolutely. It cost $4 million, Manners. And that's a body who were $11 million in debt at their last annual general meeting a couple of months ago. So they are dollar hungry. And look, where does the ramifications of this result seep to? I'll tell you where they do, to groundsmen of the next few tests. I mean, there's no way that they'll be preparing wickets that'll be green seamers. And, you know, the last thing Australia can do really wants is another 2-day test. And I have to say, after the euphoria of Travis Head's extraordinary century sort of faded, people were saying, oh, geez, you know, I hope the next one's not like that.
Will he stay at the top of the order? I mean, I know that you and I are old men these days, but if we played golf 3 days in a row, we'd be as stiff as old men. Usman Khawaja apparently played golf for 3 days before the test match and then had back spasms. Talking of anger, I'm sensing a little bit of anger that's directed at him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's fine until it doesn't work, isn't it? And that's been his custom before test matches, to play a lot of golf. The day before, he hit 76 off the stick, 41 Stableford points, and won a competition. But and Cricket Australia is saying, oh, you cannot prove that that it was related, but you can't prove it was unrelated either. So, you know, he's fighting for his place. If he is out injured, and I saw him at the airport the other night, if he misses this game through injury, he will never play again. If he is fit, I sense they may let him bat on because he's only had one innings for the series. So, yeah, but it's a tight call, Manners. The poll in our paper that's running at the moment, 93% of people want Travis Head to stay there.
One of my favourite quotes was from a slightly frustrated Mitchell Starc when he was asked to give his verdict on the game. And he basically said, you know, well, we did bowl quite well. You know, he said it wasn't too much wrong with the pitch. I think that, you know, the bowling is very good on both sides. I mean, he's walked away with a 10-for, and people are hardly talking about him.
That's very true. Like, he was the man of the match, beating Travis Head, you know, which was a extraordinary effort. But, you know, his stats are almost identical to the great Wasim Akram. They're a similar number of tests, similar number of wickets. Wasim had a better average, of course, but that's all you need to know about Mitchell Starc. Without him, they would have lost that test, Manners. Australia had two informed players, Head and Starc. And Starc was brilliant. She rose to the occasion well. And, of course, he's a pink ball prince for the next test in Brisbane. That's where he creates absolute havoc with the pink ball, even though he doesn't even really like it that much. So it's just, there was a sense of numbness, Manners, that has descended upon Australia after this test. We wonder what Mark Wood wanted to drive across the country. I mean, that's about a 20-hour drive just to clear his head from Perth to Brisbane. They didn't let him, of course. Thank God for that. He would have got lost in the Nullarbor Plain somewhere. But that shows that, you know, how shocked he was, where he just wanted to get away from it all. And, you know, their first innings bowling performance was as good a performance I've seen from an England bowling team in Australia for 40 years. It was outstanding. But they had no gap after it. Their batsmen disappeared, so their bowlers were out there again, and they were smashed. But they deserve better, the bowlers.
Can you explain the Pat Cummins situation? For the uninitiated, It seems quite peculiar that he's running in, bowling, you know, long stints in the nets at full pace. Like, couldn't he have played in Perth? And why is he still a doubt for the Gabba?
Yeah, well, he practiced this morning. Significantly, the two injured bowlers practiced in Sydney this morning, Manners, Hazelwood and Cummins. But Hazelwood practiced with a red ball, which says to me he's not coming back in Brisbane. Cummins practiced with a pink ball, which says he thinks he's a chance. Now, they were just being careful with Cummins, you know, that old syndrome with a back injury. when you absolutely think you're ready to go, take another match off. So will he play in Brisbane? I think he's about a 45% chance, probably more likely out than in, but the call will be his. And it'll be a difficult one, but that's the problem with England and losing that first test. Australia will get stronger. Cummins will return. Like that was, oh gosh, the stars seem to align from Hazelwood out, Cummins out, Khawaja injured. Bowlers get a quick go at them. You win the toss, you pick the right team, 5 seamers, you're ready to go, and they just blew it. And Joe Root, to me, was really culpable in it. Like you just needed a 50 out of the guy. You just needed a 50.
What sense are you getting from Ben Stokes and, in fact, all the other England players? I mean, you're there. You've looked into his eyes. We've all seen the clips of him talking in press conferences, but you don't get the same sense. Do you think there's a way back for Stokes and for England? He looks shell-shocked.
Well, you've made a really interesting comment, Manners, because normally Ben Stokes has this, results don't matter. We're about with the way we play and all that. And on the darkest day, he's got this implacable demeanour. He was rattled this time badly. His voice was quivering, and he said, I'm still in sort of now mode, trying to digest what's happened. He was rocked. And when the captain's rocked, so is the team. And the bowlers were really rocked. So it's very difficult for England in a 2-day test to have 4 good sessions, and yet their batters and their bowlers are totally chastened for different reasons. So, man, before you and I go to heaven, hell, or purgatory, I'd love to see a close Ashes series in Australia, but there hasn't been one in our lifetime. It's extraordinary. England have won 2 in that time. They galloped away with them. They won easily. The rest have just been backslams to Australia. So our old mate Malcolm Conn used to write off England every tour of Australia, and he said, one day I'll look a fool, but I'll just keep saying, no, they've lost the first. They'll lose the second. They'll lose the third. They'll lose. And Mal used to love writing them off, but he was more often right than wrong. He was barely ever made a fool of, because he rolled the dice, and guess what? The dice come up with a pair of 6s.
Just briefly give us a sense of the history of pink ball tests at the Gabba, and you mentioned Mitchell Starc. I mean, if it was 2 days in Perth, you can't see it going much longer at the Gabba.
No, you can't. The ball will hoop around a bit here. Pakistan almost chased down 400 and something here in a pink ball test, which was interesting. Australia did lose a pink ball test here, but they've won 13 out of 14 pink ball tests. They play them well, Manners. You've got to get the rhythms of the game and don't fight it. If the ball starts swinging about sundown, you've got to think, right, I'll just absorb this. And I don't reckon England is accept the rhythms team. I just reckon they go, no, we're playing this way and it's this way all the time. So that's why I think the pink ball test spells trouble for them, mate, because they're not a nuanced team. Let's just call it that.
Finally, you and I share a pet hate. It's batsmen who say that's the way I play. Charging down the wicket and having a slap. That's the way I play. Sometimes it comes off, sometimes it doesn't. Is that the sense you're getting from England again?
Yeah, exactly. That they're determined to play that way, but there's a real naivety about it. Like we have this thing they used to say, the whacker width, the Perth width. Now, where the ball bounces a bit, so bowlers would bowl wide and any drive, snick, gone. Well, that's what happened to Brook and Root and players like this. So Harry Brook will go down swinging. There's no 2 ways about that. But, gee, the pressure is intense, Manners. If they'd have won that test, okay, suddenly it's a license to just be cavalier in the pink ball and go for it. But if they go down in 2 days again, Bazball is at the crossroads.
Is it not there already?
It can see the flashlights ahead. It's about 100 metres away. But it's redeemable. They're 1 test down. But if you go 2 tests down, you've basically lost the Ashes. And if you had 2 quick tests in a row, that would be, this whole philosophy. And it's been good, They'd won one test out of 17 with Joe Root as captain before McCullum took over. I've loved some of the things they've done. I love some of the cricket they play, but you have to have some fibre with the flash. In amongst the pavlova-like trimmings, you have to have some potatoes, carrots, beans and peas. That are the sustenances of a decent meal, Manners.
This is the final question. It's basically 2 weeks until England, play again. And they're not playing a practice game. None of the Test 11 went to Canberra or will go to Canberra to play in that pink ball game. What are they going to be doing? And are they going to be having sort of paparazzi photographers following them around, trying to catch them playing golf and smiling?
Well, I think you are onto something there, because I understand there were some paparazzi at their golf. But here's the thing. They've elected not to send a batsman to the pink ball game in Canberra. In my opinion, that's a mistake. I'd have sent Crawley and Root, get down there. Jamie Smith's never played a pink ball game in first-class cricket. Get him down there. They said, no, we'll send him to the Gabba where it bounces ball. We've got extra training sessions and that'll be good. Wow, that's a big call, that one, I've got to tell you. So they're following their mantra, and I guess if you want to praise Brendan McCullum, you could say he doesn't care what people think. He makes his own decision. And he said, the one point I'll give him is he said, we want all our players to stay together. And I do get that. You're trying to rebuild as a team and get ready. There is that, but I'd still send guys to Canberra.
Well, interesting what Crash had to say. There is a great deal of anger, Harmy. How often do you play golf 3 days in a row? And how stiff are you if you do play 18 holes 3 days in a row? Because I can hardly walk. Usman Khawaja played 3 days of golf, won a competition with 41 Stapleford points, apparently, on the day before, and then suffered back spasms. Cricket Australia says you can't prove that it's unrelated.
Yeah, I think it's one of them ones where golf gets a bad name when things don't go right. It's bad enough trying to get sort of 26 Stapleford points, but so you have that, I think, that stick to bat with them, pardon the pun, that if England don't get it right, we all blame golf. I'm Usman Khawaja. I think 3 games in 3 days is a little bit of a stretch for somebody who's 38 years old to go and potentially bat for 2 days and win a test match. So it's only relevant when it goes wrong. And unfortunately for Khawaja, this could be the end of his career. And whether it's 3 days golf that's had it, then so be it. I play golf every day when we can, and it's a little bit stiff and sore, but that's walking around. I can't imagine these lads are walking around. He's sitting in a buggy. The only thing, getting in and out of buggies and stuff like that, hot and sweaty places, back does seize up. But try to justify this here. If it's got something to do with he's playing golf, then so be it. But these lads play golf 2, 3, 4 days in a row, leading into most test matches. England do it. He was playing with Mitchell Starc. I think Mitchell Starc played 3 days in a row as well. 2 days out of 3, and he got 10th. So I just think it's always magnified when it goes wrong. And unfortunately, from Khawaja's point of view, it'll be interesting to see where the selection goes, and Travis Head and stuff like that. And Malcolm Conn said at the end of section 1, Crash is talking about it and the way the sort of the Australians see Bazball. If Travis Head opens the batting and Josh Inglis comes into the middle, Australia are going more towards Bazball than their old way of absorbing the game, because Travis Head's going to the top of the order to keep pressure on England. Josh Inglis comes into the middle order, if he does. Bar Webster comes into the middle order, they do. They're more naturally aggressive than they are to absorb the game. So Khawaja coming out of the team, if he does, Australia's game plan changes a little bit. It goes more Bazball than it does going the other team a game plan that's won so many test matches, that's got them probably one of the best teams in the world for the last 2 or 3 years. So I'd be cautious about what happens with Khawaja if I was Australia. Do you leave him out, go away from your Khawaja, other opener, Labuschagne and Smith, absorbing the game a little bit more, and then you've got more expansive players in Head, Green, Carey coming down the middle order, to then go and all eggs in one basket England way and saying, right, we're going to go Head in first, Inglis at number 5 and number 6. And now we are going to, because you've got Weatherall, and he's the one that comes out firing shots as well. You've just slagged England off for playing Bazball. Now you're going to do it yourself. A little bit cheeky, sorry, but I'm just trying to.
Yeah, got it.
But you know what I'm saying?
I do. Let's hear what Steve Smith said about Uzi's love of golf.
His preparation was the same as it's been for every test match I think that he's played. So yeah, there was nothing out of whack there by any stretch, and yeah, unfortunately just pulled up a bit lame early on in the game, and you know, that happens when your back goes on you. I've been there myself, when your back seizes up, and it's not a nice place to be. So, you know, I can feel his pain right now.
He's played 3 rounds of golf before every test match. Really?
I think that's a bit of a stretch. I think, yeah. I think possibly what Stephen's saying is that the day before a test match, in the majority of Usman Khawaja's career, he's played golf. But so's Joe Root, so's Ben Stokes, Ollie Pope, Zach Crawley. They've all played golf the day before. We've seen the manners, haven't we? They've come and practiced first thing in the morning. By lunchtime, they've had lunch at the golf course, had a game of golf, buggies. You get away from the noise and the pressure that you put yourself under in a hotel room or a team room because you can't leave anywhere. So, like I said before, I've got no issue with golf. 3 rounds in 3 days as a 38-year-old might be a bit of a stretch before the first test match, but golf is only blamed when things go wrong. England will be criticised for preparation stuff and not playing 4-day games because there'll be stones will be thrown at them because they want to play golf. That's not the case. There's nothing wrong with the golf. Unfortunately, the cricket is what's the problem at this moment in time.
Okay. Let's there's a lot of speculation about Travis Head continuing to open. Let's hear from the man himself. Of course, he scored 123 in the run chase off just 83 balls. One of the great innings. It really was. This is what he had to say when he was asked about continuing in that role for the rest of the Ashes.
I'm not worried about personal accolades or anything in this team. I feel like if I could play a role at any stage, and we went around the circles a little bit once Steve sort of had a crack at it, and it was Nath had a go at, like, it was just each time I sort of just put my name in and said, why not? Like, I'd do it in other formats. Could there be an opportunity to do what Davey had done? We were sort of looking for that role, someone to go out there and be a bit more aggressive, and I thought there's every chances. Did it in Sri Lanka, did it numerous times. I've done it in international cricket a lot now, so I brewed the idea, but I can also see that like 3, 4 and 5 has worked pretty well. I understand where Ron and Pat are at, so all the conversations have been pretty fluent. We have a great relationship, and that's how they wanted to build their team around us at 3, 4 and 5, and that's how it's been. So, and it's worked pretty well. So I can see both sides, but I'm always putting my hand up. Look, I'm not going really aggressive at it, but I'm putting my hand up. If the team requires it, I'm more than happy to do it and keep the option there. And if they don't do it, it's fine. I'm not nor here nor there on it.
It's not a resounding no, is it?
No.
In fact, it's a resounding yes.
Yeah, I think it is a resounding yes. It's, I want to go up to the top and, chance my arm and have a go. He wants to do what Davey Warner did. Like I said before, there's a couple of things in this. One, you're changing dynamics of the way the team has built quite a lot of success in the last couple of years under Pat Cummins, which is absorb the game through Usman Khawaja, Marnus Labuschagne, and Steve Smith, and then Head comes through. That changes that dynamic. 2, if I've said this many times, Manus, to you about players of an age. Once you leave them out, they're gone. You don't come back. So if you leave Usman Khawaja out of the Brisbane Test match, he retires. That's him finished. He's 38-year-old. But if all of a sudden Travis gets nicked off twice at Brisbane, gets nicked off twice at Adelaide. All of a sudden, that inexperienced player that comes into the middle order exposes the tail. Then you're going, well, we want Travis back in the middle order. Well, Usman Khawaja's had 6 different openers, and you're now finding another one for Usman because you can't bring him back because he's already gone. There are questions that I think the selectors are probably looking at. What England have got to do is, I think England, even though it sounds stupid, England are, and I'm very good at making myself sound stupid, but if England want the best outcome, I think the best outcome, even though he's done what he's done at Perth, would be for Travis Head to open the baton. Because if you get the ball moving, you're vulnerable with the new ball. All of a sudden, if you've knocked Head over first up, I mean, that's massive when it comes to their game plan in the middle order. So I would rather, from England's point of view, that Head opens the baton, because there's more chance of me knocking him over more consistently with a newer ball in the next 8 innings if my plan B is better, because you get your plan A. But the problem with England, I thought their plan B, C, and D, and E, and all the way to Z went out the window in them 86 balls when he got 100. I think if England get that better, then I think it would be better off for England if Travis does come up on the baton, because there's more chance of getting him early than there is possibly getting him with an older ball coming in at number 5.
Okay, we just got to squeeze in South Africa. A little bit of news. England have said that, or the ECB have said that they are going to return to 5-match series against South Africa from the 2032 cycle. It's a long time to wait. But I don't know how much of the test match you watched at Guwahati, the second test match. The first was an absolute classic, South Africa winning by 30 runs at Eden Gardens. Incredible, bowling India out for 93 in the second innings. South Africa batted 230 overs in Guwahati. Half an hour before close on the second day, 151 overs, batted another 78 on day 4. Some really old-fashioned application, which may or may not have caught the attention of some of the England batsmen.
Yeah, I mean, 230 overs. I think England might do well to bat 230 overs in a series, never mind anything else. So, yeah. I mean, it was old school batting. It was an old school pitch as well. It didn't have a great deal of life in it. I mean, Marco Jansen's 93 at number 9. I mean, Marco Jansen bat number 9. That's a lineup. That he's just taking the game away from India, hasn't he? I think if Jansen doesn't get any runs there, all of a sudden that 420, 450 that in South Africa got, that becomes 360, 370. Then India could then say, right, we go past you and bowl you out. Now it's been much more difficult. And South Africa bowled really well as well. They bowled fantastically well. I mean, that's a well-balanced team. I know, man, as we talked to Simon Harmer last week, well, you've got Harmer, you've got Maharaj. I know Rabada didn't play, but tell you what, that's for the next year or so, if they were playing Test match cricket, then you'd fancy South Africa to be top of the world Test Championships again, and fighting at the top end. As for the 5-match series, yes, it's great in principle, but I mean, 2028's a long. I think 2028's a long way away in Test match cricket. Never mind 2032 and what the landscape of Test match cricket will look like when you've got a country like South Africa playing five Test matches in, I don't know, 2 years. To play 5 Test matches in one series could be a bit of an ask.
Yeah, well, it's all looking a bit bleak for India. Follows their 3-0 home series defeat against New Zealand, of course, and they've won only 4 of their 9 Test matches in the current World Test Championship cycle. So they might have to beat Australia 5-0 next year in order to have a chance of reaching the final. And a reminder that out now on the Following On feed, you can listen to Head Before Wicket, a talkSPORT investigation which focuses on mental health in cricket. And in this clip, Graham Thorpe's widow, Amanda, believes that his sacking by the ECB after the 21-22 Ashes series wasn't handled well at all.
He came back and he was left waiting and knowing that things weren't good, reading things in the paper all the time about the video and that. I mean, it's so wrong to me. So that was bad. A good 2 or 3 weeks, as if that's not a build up to the stress enough. don't know why they do it like that. And then he was someone just came round and just told him just at a meeting.
Do you think it had a detrimental effect to his mental well-being, the way it was handled?
Yes, yeah, undoubtedly. I mean, he was already under the care of mental health, doctors and on medication and counselling and so on for a good year before that, so in the COVID and everything, and then with the video and all this, so he was at a pretty vulnerable point. So to tell someone to go for new opportunities and pull the rug like that, not sure how else, who's going to take it, how else you can take it but badly, and he was already... so he was already, I'd say vulnerable. So of course it had an absolutely devastating effect on him.
And you can listen to that whole program, Head Before Wicket, a talkSPORT investigation, on the Following On podcast feed. Harmy, difficult topic. Brave of Amanda to talk about a subject that's obviously painful. And it's fair to say that, as sad as the situation is, she is looking to be constructive, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I've listened to the whole 5.5 minutes that the interview had with Amanda. It's a show that obviously it's come out, the timings of it that's come out, it's during during the series. I'm in the show as well. I talk about my struggles. Marcus Trescothick's a bit in there. I think Michael Vaughan's a bit in there. There's a lot of stuff in there from cricketers from the After the Lights Go Out show, which I host with Leon McKenzie. So it is something which is close to my heart because obviously of what Graham Thorpe meant to me. I urge people to listen to what she says rather than read it, because I think when you hear Amanda talk, she talks openly and honestly and powerfully about what life was like with Graham from the point when he lost his job with the ECB to that tragic morning in Surrey, when Graham decided that he was going to end his life. And I think that is what Amanda's saying. She was quite balanced when she was saying it. She was talking about honest assessments of where Graham Thorpe was, with his rehabilitation from the stroke that he had, and the attempt the first time, and everything that dealing with what mental health comes with it. And so from that point of view, it was really hard to listen to that again. It was really hard to think that a lot of us who knew Graham, loved Graham, and were classed as close friends around, and especially when you've seen, the who's who of cricketers at his funeral. When we listen to this again, we'll feel guilty that we couldn't have done more to try and help Graham. There was obviously he obviously needed help. He at the back end of his career, which I caught him. He wasn't exactly straightforward, Graham. There was complications with Graham Thorpe. He came back into the series against South Africa, I think in 2003, when he had a break out of the side. I was in the middle with him in Barbados. It was one of the best experiences I've ever had, with batting with an absolute legend. And then what he did for the likes of Root and Stokes, who carried him in and out of the church. It was an honest assessment, which I think the ECB will, and the PCA, I'm not just throwing the ECB at the ECB, the PCA will look at it and think, right, we have to make sure that this doesn't happen again. We must do better. And this is one side of the story. The ECB and the PCA will have their side, and I think it's important that, I think for future, that when somebody does need help, they get it, because she says, and she does say in this, that she believes that if he hadn't have lost his job, he would still be alive. And that from a widow is very, very powerful. So, it upset me last night when I heard it, and it's upset me this morning again doing the breakfast show on it, and it will upset me forever, because I know mentally the struggles that I've had, and the help that you need to sort of overcome things. Amanda doesn't believe Graham got the help that he needed to overcome things, and that's such a sad thing.
Cricket is full of difficult decisions. It's a difficult enough game as it is, but when players are dropped or released and don't have contracts renewed, when changes are felt they need to be made, they need to be done with clarity and dignity. I think that's, we all have known coaches and captains who don't have what it takes to look a player in the eyes and let him go or give him the bad news with, as I said, dignity and clarity. And it's a difficult thing to do, but I think that's what makes good leaders stand out. Well, I tell you what, Harmy, just we move on to some other news. One thing that this is going to sound very ironic. One thing that the 2-day test loss has done is take the focus off the fact that the England Lions lost as well to Cricket Australia 11. I mean, it wasn't a first-class game, and we shouldn't read too much into the results. Maybe just personal performances, I suppose. Josh Inglis, you just mentioned as a possible test contender, made 125 off 107 balls as the Cricket Australia 11 chased down 232 in 45 overs. But there were runs for Jacob Bethel. Emilio Gay got runs in both innings. Ben McKinney made 42, but didn't have a strong sense of meaning about it, that fixture, did it?
No, that's the concern you have with these touring games. Again, a little bit like England's preparation for the Gabba, you get caught between a rock and a hard place and how you judge what's happening. But what I'd take away from it is, again, you look down. England used 10 bowlers in the first innings, 8 bowlers in the second innings. 30s and 40s are nice. 30s and 40s are really nice. But you've just watched you've just watched England completely capitulate. If England get bowled out for 150 first innings at the Gabba, they've got to make a change. And who they make a change with, how they make a change, you're in there. That's you. McKinney, Emilio Gay, Tom Haynes, Bethel, Jacks, Cox, Kelway, Rivers. Rue. Try to think of anybody else that's in there that's from a top 8. Your next cab's off the rank. Josh Inglis is the next cab off the rank. He is in the Australia squad. Got 125 of 107 balls. We've got Gay 30 off 47, Bethel 44, Will Jacks 30, 42 McKinney. We're not getting big enough scores to say, right, if Zach Crawley has another shocker, I'm your man. That's what McKinney, Haynes, Emilio Gay, they've got to do. This is what these tours should be for. So I'm all for looking after the bowlers and 10 bowlers in an innings. Yeah, looks a bit amateurish to sort of quote Michael Vaughan. But as batters, if you get in, you're batting at Lilac Hill. It's not at the Optus where it's bouncing over your head. You've got to cash in. You've got to make big scores. And a little bit like I think where English cricket is at this moment in time. It's a little bit of entitlement. It's a little bit of, well, we're protecting, putting people in cotton wool, putting a protective bubble around them. We'll not criticize them. We'll say nice things to them because we don't want to upset them. I mean, if you want to play for England, it comes down to hard work and hard yards, and you're putting that in. But mentally hard work, mentally hard yards, putting yourself under pressure, going getting big scores, constantly banging doors down. That's what A tours, and it's not an A tour, but A tours in the past was. It was rewarded for players who had done well, who were next cabs off the rank. You went on an A tour and you got 100. You were in the first test. You were in around the first test squad the next summer if you start the season well. 30s and 40s ain't getting you into the England team. They ain't. It's not. They're not getting you in the England team. Well, they might do because the England team are getting out the same way as for 30 and 40s as well. Is this another example of this regime being? It's a nice place to be. We are working hard, but we're not learning.
On to the final word, Harmy. I've got a selection for you. I think I might just chuck them all at you because we're running out of time. The Warwickshire Bears are going to take over from the Birmingham Bears after 12 years. They're going to rebrand back to This is after feedback from the members forum. And county cricket has been around for a very, very long time. Goodness knows how the followers of the 100 are going to feel about Mumbai Indians, London. People like the county association. More than like, they want it. Some may even need it. So Birmingham Bears hasn't worked. It's taken 12 years to realise that. And the members have said, can we have Warwickshire back, please? So that will now happen from next summer. All 4 T20 Blast quarterfinals will be now played on the same day. So quarterfinals week is no longer. Again, scheduling restrictions, I assume. And franchise cricket is coming to New Zealand. The NZ20 is going to be launched with private investment. It's taken the Kiwis quite long to get on board, isn't it? They're going to flog off some franchise teams and have 6 of them. And the sad thing for me is that the competition with the greatest name ever, the Georgie Pie Super Smash, will now be taken over by probably IPL teams.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think Georgie Pie has got enough money to get one of the NZ20 franchises. So it'll be such a shame because that would be a great team name, wouldn't it? The Georgie Pie 11. So I think me and Goffey might get in that one now. But look, I think it's great. I mean, we love that part of the world, don't we, Manners? We've been twice in the last sort of 3 years, and hopefully we'll go again if the rights come up again. But I mean, it is a great part of the world. Like SA20, what South African cricket's been transformed into from SA20, whether you like it or not, there's cash in there now, which might have a knock-on effect to the longer format of the game. This, in New Zealand, they've been so good, New Zealand, at the board level of looking after their players, playing in franchises. So to reward the players and to reward that part of the world with a tournament, that would be brilliant. I'd worry if I was Australia, because Australia doesn't seem to want to let the Indian franchise owners in. I think they're in conversations with, but I'd be concerned if I was near Big Bash, because that seems to be like the T20 Blast was sort of going downhill a little bit. And you're right. I think I'd finish with the Warwickshire one. Yeah, it makes sense. All quarterfinals been on the same day, because then you're freeing up time. But whenever you talk about where you're from, whether I talk about Ashington or wherever, it's Northumberland. I'm from Northumberland. I'm proud I'm from Northumberland. I played for Durham because I couldn't play for Northumberland because we didn't have a team. But I'm proud of being from Northumberland. I really am. I live miles away from everywhere, and Northumberland is my home. And that is the biggest thing. Newcastle's your football team. You're born in a certain town, but the county you're from is Northumberland. And Warwickshire going to the Bears. Yes, it's took them 12 years, but finally common sense has come to the fore. And that's why I don't think the 100 will cotton on when it comes to, yes, the cash is going to be in there, but the team names, you'll never ever get tribalism, because tribalism is where you're from. And if you keep the name from where you're from, you've got half a chance of building a unit, which is a unit of tribalism. And that, for me, is why probably Birmingham Phoenix is not Birmingham Phoenix to Birmingham Bears, has now gone to Warwickshire Bears. And that, for me, is probably the best for the Warwickshire supporters and the people of Warwickshire.
Yeah, let's see how Sunrisers Leeds gets on. You've been listening to Following On with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. We'll be back at the same time next week for a full preview of the second Ashes Test in Brisbane. But for now, this has been another edition of Following On.